Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online character build video with me, Sherman. Today guys, we're taking a look at the Meridia's Guardian character build for Elsweyr. This build has gone through many iterations in the past. It has changed several times, but now it is back to being more of itself. And I say that because it is more of itself. It's designed as to be a tank, a healer, and damage dealer. Primarily tank, because that's what it's made for, but it can also be a healer or damage dealer if it needs to be, and it's really simple to adjust. And we'll go over that. But first, let's go over the choices here. So we are a Wood Elf Templar for this. I play a Wood Elf Templar in the live game, that's why I chose this. Any race will be good for this. Nords are somewhat better, but they wind up going over the resistance cap. Imperials are really good, Argonians are really good, Orcs are really good, and any of the other races are good at this. It just depends on your preference of play and what race you like. I just prefer the Wood Elf. Alright, so as you can see, we do have 64 into health. This is how we have it set for the tank roll. This gives us 18k magicka, 24k stamina, 35k health, and this is using tri-stat food. We do have a 931 magic recovery, 410 health recovery, and a 1105 stam recovery. Weapon damage is coming in at 2200 with a 28% weapon critical. We do have a 24k physical or spell resistance with a 21k physical resistance. This is just natural to this setup. We are using the Lord Mundus Stone for max health, and we are using tri-stat food. Now going over here and taking a look at the food, we do have Dubious Cameron Throne, we do have Witch Mother's Potent Brew, and we have Longfin Pasty with melon sauce. This is all foods we have for playing different roles. Just like the potions, we have the stamina power pots, we have magicka power pots, and then we have the tri-stat pots. And you can get these on live by purchasing them through the Crown. You can either earn these through the Crown store, daily rewards, or you can buy them through the guild traders from other players, or you can learn to craft them yourself through the alchemy crafting. Dubious Cameron Throne is a rare drop. It only drops on Halloween, and same with or during one of the holiday events, and same with Witch Mother's Potent Brew. But a lot of people craft them and sell them. And then the main food we use for when we're tanking is the Longfin Pasty with melon sauce. This is going to give us that higher tri-stat, max health, magicka, stamina setup. Alright, now going over the gear, starting with the monster set. Our monster set is Swarm Mothers. Swarm Mothers is a really good monster set for this particular build, because it gives the Templar a way to have chains without having that as a class ability. You can use Silver Leash, but that does cost stamina. This only costs you the ability to block. So the one piece adds stamina recovery. The two piece, when you block an attack from an enemy that is further than 8 meters from you, you spin strands of spider silk to pull enemies to you. This effect can occur once every second. So basically what it allows you to do is just pull enemies in that are further than 8 meters away. And it's just like using chains, you just have to hold block. We are using, as our next set, we are using Hunting's Rage. Hunting's Rage is probably one of the better set choices for this, because it does give you on the 3-piece max stamina, but we'll go over the whole set bonus right now. Gives you 2-piece weapon critical, 3-piece max stam, 4-piece weapon critical, and the 5-piece adds even more weapon damage. The reason why this set's good for this particular setup is this is how you can play a damage dealer when you're not tanking. This allows you for greater play when you're soloing content, doing quest stuff, and things like that. Alright, the next set is what this build has been based around since day one, and that is Meridia's Blessed Armor. Now this drops in Cold Harbor. It is a kind of difficult set to get because Cold Harbor doesn't have dark anchors. So you have to find chests to get the rings, and to get the weapons, you have to do the public dungeon, or you have to kill world bosses. So it can be really difficult and challenging to get this stuff, but it's a good journey, it's fun, and it's just a really good setup. And as you can see, we are using the jewelry and weapons from this set. Alright. Just need to clear my throat. Alright, let's go ahead and go over the traits on the gear. So on the bigger pieces, the traits and enchants are going to be invigorating on the helm, invigorating on the body, and invigorating on the legs. Now the reason we're doing invigorating is because our monster set and Meridia's Guardian, which I need to go over real quick. Let me go over Meridia's Guardian set bonuses. 2-piece physical resistance, 3-piece stam recovery, 4-piece spell resistance, and the 5-piece. When you block an attack, you have a 33% chance to blind the attacker, causing them to miss all of their attacks for 5 seconds. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. So it allows you to blind your enemies. It comes in real handy on trash packs, in dungeons, and even in trials. And most encounters in dungeons, you can get away with blinding them. There's just certain, like the boss encounters, you can't blind, and boss encounters and elite mobs in trials, you can't blind. Alright, so the reason for the setup of invigorating is because we do have stam recovery on the Swarm Mothers and stam recovery on the Meridia's Blessed. If we take advantage of the 3 invigorating, we actually get more recovery out of it in the long run. So we can actually play with a higher stam recovery and magic recovery. We do have 1 infused jewelry piece with magic recovery, and we'll go over that in a sec. But let's continue on here. So all 3 pieces of the big pieces are invigorating. The smaller pieces are all sturdy. The reason why is to reduce our block cost capabilities. And on all the smaller pieces, we do have max stamina enchants. The bigger pieces all have tri-rune enchants. This gives you the multi-effect enchant, so you can hybridize your character into being a tank, a healer, damage dealer. Moving on to the jewelry, we do run 2 weapon damage with tri-runes on the rings. This is going to give us more of that ability to play that hybridized type class or character. And we can take advantage of those 2 weapon damage because this makes us build primarily a stamina damage character. Now moving on to the jewelry, or to the necklace, we are using an infused necklace with a magic recovery to give us higher magic recovery. So that's how we can reach that 931. And when we use our tripods, we actually go to 1094 mag recovery with 1318 stam recovery, and I'm going to even show you how you can get more out of this. Alright, back to the inventory. Going over the weapons, we do have a sturdy shield. This is going to give us higher block cost reduction. And on our sword, we are using a decisive main hand weapon with a absorbed stamina. This is going to help us stay in stamina better. And then on the back bar, we do use a 2-handed sword with a crusher enchant. A lot of people don't use 2-handed sword when tanking because they don't realize the benefits of it. So I'm going to show you those benefits here in a minute. Now going over the other weapons you might want to get for this setup so you can play it as a tank and a healer and a damage dealer is a blessed bow. This is going to allow you to have melee damage setup with a infused enchant and a weapon damage enchant on it. So an infused trait with a weapon damage enchant, this is going to give you higher DPS output for when you're playing a damage dealer. Moving on to the other weapons, we have a sword infused with oblivion damage. I really like this, especially for this setup, because it just gives you a way of doing more damage. Even to enemies, no matter what, you're always going to do that oblivion damage. It's really small, but it works out. In the offhand, we are using a Nirnhoned mace with a physical damage absorbed stamina. This is going to allow you to have that resource management and that little bit of extra damage on the front bar. When we play healer, we actually run the 2-handed as our primary weapon with the Blessed Restoration Staff. This way we have weakening on one bar and we have Crusher on the other. This way we can help out our group by keeping Crusher applied to other targets besides what the tank does. Because the tank's going to put Crusher on one thing, you're going to hit another thing, and you're going to be able to keep Crusher on 2 targets this way. And that's only when you're playing the healer role. Even when you're playing in solo in Overland, if you want, you can use two-handed with bow, or you can use the dual wield with a bow. Alright, moving on to the skills, guys. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth in this time and explain some of the skills that I unlock and why I unlock them. So first, make sure you get all of your class passives unlocked for your character, because you're going to take advantage of those class passives in the different roles: tank, healer, and damage dealer. So as a tank, you want to make sure that you unlock abilities that are going to make you more effective as a tank. So things like empowering sweep is more for when you're playing a damage dealer. Same thing with biting jabs, same thing with binding javelins. And explosive charge might be, like, binding javelins and explosive charge might be something you want to use as a tank, or even blazing spear to offer some group support. But you always want to make sure you have a shield. Now, Templar comes with the second best shield in the game. Now, I say it's the first best by personal preference, and that's because to me it is the best shield you can get in the game. There is only one shield that comes close to this, and that is the Bones shield from the Undaunted line. But when you're playing this particular setup, running Blazing Shield is actually better, because this thing explodes and deals damage out to the enemies, but you also have a chance of proccing Burning Light, which allows more damage to be done by your Blazing Shield if it happens to proc the Burning Light passive. So that's just one way that you can boost your DPS with this character. The other thing you're going to want to understand about the build is all the passives. Make sure you read all the passives and how they work. It's really important to learn those about the class, because it kind of directs you into which way they work. Like Dawn's Wraith is more about magicka. I mean, it has a lot about magic damage and like CCing, things like that, doing crowd control. It's not large CC, it's small CC. It's single target CC. But then the passives really allow you to kind of branch your character into a really good support character. Same thing goes with Restoring Light. It is mostly defines you as a healer, and everything in it is almost a heal. So, alright, moving on. We do use two-handed, so you want to make sure you unlock all the passives. The main reason why two-handed can be really good for a tank is the Brawler passive, because it is built on max damage. The damage it does is very small, but it can hit multiple targets, and that's really good. But every enemy you hit will increase the strength of the shield. So if you're in a trash pack and you do your Brawler, it's going to apply a small damage shield with no enemies, and then with a lot of enemies, it's just going to become a huge, massive shield. So it's just a way for you to mitigate a lot of damage, no matter what. But remember, it does cost stamina. So, and all the passives are really good. Rally's also a really good self-heal for a tank if you don't have a self-heal. Now, unfortunately enough, the Templar does have a really good self-heal, Honor the Dead, but at the same time, it's not something you want to be casting a lot of, because you want to save your magic up, primarily for keeping Blazing Shield up, because you're going to be using it a lot. And if you notice, all of our other abilities we have on the bar are pretty much stamina, except for that one. So you want to reserve your stamina for those abilities and your magicka for this. Alright. Like I said, two-handed can be a really good tanking tool if you learn to use it right. One-handed sword and shield, we do have all the skills unlocked and the passives, and you can choose which passives you want to, or what skills you want to use and what morphs. For this particular setup, I do use Ransack, and the reason why is because Ransack gives you minor resolve. And yes, I know a healer can put that on you if they have the combat prayer or the blessing of restoration. From the resto staff, they're using the blessing and protection ward. They can keep that on you, but at the same time, if you're using sword and shield and you're up front tanking, you want to get that on you as quick as possible, that blessing and protection, or that minor resolve, so you can boost up your physical resist. Now, what it does is here, you can see we go to 23, 24. This puts them more in line with each other, And then if I have myself buff down, my resistance buff, I go to 2932. So this allows me to have higher physical and spell resist. And just be a more effective tank. Sorry, 3132. And this just allows me to be a more effective tank with higher resistances. I also use defensive stance because I like the fact that this thing will redirect damage back to the enemy and stun them. So it's a nice crowd control. Templars don't have a lot of crowd control. So taking advantage of the abilities that give you crowd control can be an advantage. On dual wield, again, I unlock specific passives related to the way I like to play. I like to use Still Tornado, so I actually unlock it and use it quite a bit. And then for bow, I unlock all the passives and abilities that I find more effective for me. With Lethal Arrow, there is another morph to this that gives you Minor Fracture, but as a Templar I don't need it because I have this Power of the Light, which I can put Minor Fracture and Minor Breach. So I actually take the Lethal Arrow, which has the Minor Defile. I also take all the things that I think work best for me. I do use Arrow Barrage with this, even though it's a very expensive skill. But for being a Templar, the thing you have to understand is they do have their own class passive under the Dawn's Wraith called Restoring Spirit, which reduces Magicka, Stamina, and Ultimate cost by 4%. So I have actually a 6% Magicka and Stamina reduction because of my class and the passives I have available through my armor. And then we do have the Resto Staff passives and skills unlocked. Now you'll notice here I do use Blessing of Restoration. I don't use Combat Prayer. The reason why, Meridia's Guardian's a protector. It's meant to protect its allies, not increase their not just to help them with their damage. It's to keep them alive and keep them keep them relevant in combat. But if I need to, I can always switch this morph to the Combat Prayer once my group becomes more effective at playing the content. So moving on to the light armor passives, we do take the first three, and the reason why is because we get Grace. This reduces effectiveness to snares applied to you by 4%. It's a very small percentage in benefit, but you do notice it if you do follow snares and stuff when they get applied to you. Evocation we have for the mag recovery and the reduced cost of magic abilities. We can take advantage of it for being a Templar. And then, of course, Spell Warding gives it higher spell resistance. Medium armor, we use the top two and the bottom one. We can use the improved sneak, but we really don't need it. Dexterity increases our weapon critical, so when we're playing stamina DPS and focused on that, we get that higher weapon critical. We also get that stamina recovery and reduced stamina cost of our abilities per piece of medium armor for that. And then also athletics gives us reduced dodge roll cost and increased movement speed with sprint. Light armor also reduces your sprint cost. Heavy armor, we use all the passives because they really apply well to playing a more defensive character. So this character is not just a tank, they're a defensive character. They're made to survive. So we do use Resolve, take advantage of it. This one basically increases spell and physical resist by 362 for each piece of heavy armor, giving you 1811. We do use Constitution, which gives us higher health recovery. If we want higher health recovery, we can take advantage of it depending on our sets. And then, of course, the Constitution passive, secondary passive, you restore 108 stamina and magicka whenever you take damage for each piece of heavy armor equipped. This effect can occur every 4 seconds. We get 541 back. That's just a way for us to resource manage our character. Also, Juggernaut increases your max health for each piece of heavy armor equipped. And then we have Revitalize, which when 5 or more pieces are equipped, you increase your max magicka stamina of your health heavy attacks by 25%. And then we use Rapid Mending, increase your healing received by 8%. Moving on to the world skills. You can be a vampire with this. I just don't like it because I'm supposed to be like this. Meridia's Guardian is supposed to be somebody that works for Meridia and is a protector of good. So you do everything you use to represent that. And so that's why this character plays this way. I do unlock all the skills and passives, and somebody pointed this out to me. I didn't realize how good it can be. until I started using it. Once I started using it, Soul Shatter is an awesome passive to have, because when your health drops below 20%, your soul explodes, dealing 4,251 magic damage to enemies within 8 meters. And this does scale off your, I think it's your max spell damage and your max magicka. And then we have Soul Summons, which allows you to revive once every hour without spending a soul gem. And then you have Soul Lock, which killing an enemy with a weapon ability has a 10% chance to automatically filling a soul gem. Fighters Guild, I always get all the passives, and as you can see here, I do have Silver Leash, but this is more or less for when I'm playing a stamina DPS. If my group needs a way to pull enemies in, I can equip this and use it. The other skill I use is Dawnbreaker of Smiting instead of Flawless Dawnbreaker. And it's not to lower my DPS or anything like that. It's that this has a stun on it. So I use things that give me CCs and stuff. I also use Turn Undead because it's a CC against Daedra, Undead, and Werewolves. It will lock them in place because it will cast Fear on them. And it lasts for 5 seconds. It also gives your group minor protection, increasing their damage reduction by 8%, and it gives them minor endurance, increasing their stam recovery by 10%. We do have Evil Hunter unlocked for those situations where we might need more weapon crit and we don't have potions, or we don't want to waste potions, like when we're playing Overland. Rearming Trap, we have this here for DPS purposes. Mages Guild, unlock all the skills and passives again for when you're playing a healer and you want to take advantage of some of those magicka abilities that you can use from the Mages Guild. Sejic Order, same thing, unlocked all the skills and passives that I think I can take advantage of for my character. Undaunted, I do the same thing. I always unlock all the passives now because all the passives are great synergies. So, really help out in a group. Moving on to Alliance War, I take certain skills from here for PvE purposes. That's why I take Aggressive Warhorn, Echoing Vigor, and Caltrops. And then on the support side, I use Reviving Barrier, Efficient Purge, and Stalwart Guard. And I also get the Magic Aid. Alright, moving on to Wood Elf. Wood Elf is really kind of a different, unique thing for tanking, because a lot of people don't see the purpose in it, because they're more of a stamina DPS race. But let's go ahead and go over some of this. So increase your experience gain with a bow skill line by 15%, and decrease your fall damage by 10%. They also get Hunter's Eye, which increases your stealth detection radius by 3% per 3 meters, and increases your movement speed by 10%, and your physical and spell resistance by 1500 after for 6 seconds after you roll dodge. This makes you really good at tanking, because when you roll dodge, your resistances go higher, so you can actually take, and it only lasts 6 seconds, so it's mainly like, I'm going to roll dodge and go into block, because this is going to give me really good resistance capabilities for when I do that. Next up is Y'ffre's Endurance. This one increases your stamina recovery by 258. This can be really beneficial to you as a tank, because it does give you that higher stamina recovery, so when you do throw a heavy attack, you can get more resources back. Resist Affliction. Increase your stamina recovery by 2,000 for, or increase your max stamina by 2,000 and your poison resistance by 2310. This means any poison damage you get applied to you is reduced by even more resistances. You also gain immunity to the poison status effect, so you cannot have the poison status effect applied to you. Crafting. Medicinal use is really important for any kind of character. This will allow you to use potions, resulting in effects lasting 30% longer. And then provisioning, Gourmand and Connoisseur. Now you can unlock these yourself. The crafting lines for provisioning and alchemy are pretty easy to work with compared to some of the other ones. All you have to do is craft stuff to raise your experience with it. But Gourmand and Connoisseur make your foods and drinks last 20% longer, or 20 minutes longer. Alright, I'm not going to go over the skills on my bar. I'm going to be doing that when I talk about the build itself in the tank role. We're going to jump over to CP, and I'm going to go over the CP that you want to start with when you have lower CP with this character. So, with this character, when you first start this character and you're in the leveling process of getting him up there in CP and stuff, always start with Hardy and Elemental Defender. This is going to give you your main source of damage mitigation. And you're going to want to start here and focus in hardy and elemental defender first. You're not going to want to take them all the way up to really high numbers, but you want to at least get 10% out of them before you start focusing into ironclad, thick-skinned, bastion, quick recovery, and then the heavy armor focus, as you see it here. Now moving on over to the green tree, same thing here. You want to start with like Arcanist and Tenacity, or your block cost reduction. One of those three is where you want to start. You want to get them up to 10%, then start focusing on the other ones that you see here filled out. And the main reason why is so you can take advantage of it. I would say go with Tenacity and Shadow Ward if I was doing this character and I was trying to get them raised up to be a tank. Now moving on over here to the blue tree, with being a tank, you can't really take advantage of Mighty and all that kind of stuff, and you really want to get the Reposit passive and the other things that allow you to be more tank effective. So I would suggest starting with Physical Weapon Expert and Master at Arms, unless you want to start with Blessed to increase your healing done through your own self-healing. Either one of those three is a really good place to start with this character as you're progressing. And as you go along, move into filling out the rest of these. Now remember, this is set up right now for the tank setup, so it's going to look a lot different than when I play it as a DPS, or I even play it as a healer. So that is Meridia's Guardian. That's the new changes that have been made to her and her design, or the design of Meridia's Guardian. You can be any race with this, just to let you know, with this build. If you choose to be a Nord, though, just remember you will go over the resistance cap, and that's fine. There's a lot of content in this game where you yourself will get major fracture and minor fracture applied to you in dungeons and trials, and even in some overland areas. So having those higher resistances as a Nord is fine, because they've got to take you down that 4K resistance first that your race has built into them. And if they're only removing 5,280, that's still going to keep you within a higher range in resistances. So Nords are really good with this, and so are Imperials, but pretty much any race can play this. And make sure you just follow the idea here in the traits and the enchants, but you don't have to be exact. Like, if you don't like something about one of my builds, feel free to change it if it doesn't fit your play style, because that's what they're here for, is for you to see what you can do, not tell you how to play. I'm just showing you ways that you can put gear sets together with a character, race, all that kind of stuff, and how you can take advantage of all those different things to give you the greater type of character with it. So that is it, guys, for the Meridia's Guardian. I hope you guys are excited as much as I am for the rolls, which will be coming out right after this. I mean, all of these videos are coming out all at one time, so it's going to be the character build and then the tank roll, healer roll, or tank roll, damage dealer roll, and healer roll right after another, and then all that's going to get uploaded at one time for you. And that's how I'm doing, how I did it. So yeah, hope you guys like it. I love this build. This happens to be one of my favorite characters I play on live, and I really love this setup. It just works so well for me as a player. It's not something I would suggest that would be an all the time use, but for me, for most people, it would be. For in-game players, it's not something you would actually strive for. It can help you get to in-game though. So, but that's pretty much it for the video, guys. Hope you guys like it. If you do, you know what's coming next. Go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.